We have an important question from a brother or sister from Costa Rica named Ash. He says, well, if God decrees destiny, what is the purpose of the decisions we make? That is to say, if everything is already destined, predetermined, then my decisions make no sense. It doesn't make sense if God already knows everything. That is to say, now God knows whether I get up or not. So it doesn't make sense for me to make decisions. Everything is God has done it. So who am I? So, he says, it is true in... Yes. Here is the first question. We are going to answer it. Well, a very good question from the brother from Costa Rica. Let's see the answer. First, we indeed have something called certainty. I leave this. Let's leave this knowledge and all that, and the ideology, just leave it. I want to ask you a question. Now that I am talking to you, can you experience something that I tell you, whether you have free will or not? Can you make decisions for your people or not? Can you close your eye now? Close your eye. Who closed the eye? You or God? Do you feel that you had autonomy, independence, to make that decision? If you have closed your eye and now you have opened your eye, now I am speaking, I remain silent. Who stayed silent? I. Who decided to stay silent? I. So it is clearly seen, it is experienced with certainty that I am the one who is doing things. So, I have to feel responsible for what I am doing, for the decisions I make. For example, one person pushes another person. All the intellectuals in the world will blame him. They say, you are guilty of the push. You have mistreated him. One person kills another person. They say, you are responsible. If a person, oh look, you are telling me, it is that God has done it through my hand. It is not me. Trump spoke. It is not I who has done that. Yes, but no one is going to accept it. Everyone says you are responsible for what you have done. That means, with the certainty and assurance we have, we know that we are making the decision. Ready? Very well. So, this is quite clear. You are responsible for everything you are doing. But now let's delve a little deeper. This, that God knows what happens in the future, right? It's not that God makes decisions on my behalf. No, I'm going to tell you something. Let's look at a river. A river. Once you are in the river turns, and then reaches a waterfall. And then this happens, right? You are in the river. You don't know what happens in the future, right? But a person watching the river from a satellite knows everything. Do you understand? Yes. Because they are seeing where the river is going. Who is outside of time? We are in the flow of time, right? Now, at that moment, yesterday is yesterday, tomorrow is tomorrow, now we are today, we are not in tomorrow. So I don't know at that hour tomorrow what is going to happen to me exactly at that hour. Maybe I am dead. Maybe I am alive. God knows better. No one knows, right? You don't know what happens to me either. I may be alive. I may be about to take another class. I may be dead. But God, outside the flow of time, is already seeing it. God sees the past as today, as tomorrow, as 1,000 years later, because God is not limited by time. God is not material. God is outside of time. Just because God knows everything, it does not mean that God decides for me. And what is called destiny does not mean that God destined me as a person who has no decision. God, for example, there is a road. We place you with your car on that road. But you are in control of a steering wheel that can change direction. You cannot blame the one who built the road saying, look, you have decided for me. He says, no, destiny is already that city. You have directed yourself on that path to reach that city. You yourself. It's true that I provided the resources. I set the destiny, the arrow. Here we go, there is that city. But it's not that I made it for you. God didn't make it for you. When we say destiny, God knows it. It does not mean that God has made your destiny. You, on your own, have taken that destiny, which God knew. So, that is a lie to say that God has predestined me for something and that it is already outside of my decision. No. Watch out. That, first of all. Secondly, there are things along the way that are not within my decision. They are beyond my reach. For example, the fact that I am male or that a person is female, the fact that I was born in Iran and not in Colombia, and that my mother tongue is Persian and not Spanish, are beyond my decision. It's true, there are many elements in my life that are not by my decision. Perhaps it's due to someone else's decision. For example, this lady who is my mom, whom I love very much, is my mom. I did not decide that this woman would be my mom. My dad decided to marry this woman, and she became like my mom. My children did not choose their mom. I decided who to marry. So, it may be that it is the decision of another person or the decision of other people. How? For example, I was born after the Islamic Revolution, and the Islamic Revolution was not in my hands. I was not the one who decided that there is an Islamic government in Iran, for example. After my birth, I saw that I was born in a country that has an Islamic government. So, it may be the decision of another human being. An unexpected accident. And nature. Indeed. A person, for example, is going to witness a storm and will lose their parents, becoming orphaned. He did not decide to be an orphan, but we can talk about events, which are occurrences that happen to a person. Where are you? Responsible? To what extent are you responsible for your actions? What you decide is your choice. God will never judge you, nor will He blame you for the decisions of others. If your parents were sinners, if your parents were murderers, God will never blame you. Well, what the Bible says is a lie. For example, the Bible says that a prophet killed a Khan and his children because of their father's guilt. That is never the case with the prophets. It is a lie. In other words, God does not allow judging a child for the fault of their parents. Never. Islam never allows it. That is to say, God never permits someone to be judged for the sin of another. What the Bible says, that we are already stained by the sin of a Khan, is pure lie. Inventions of the Pharisee Paul. That Jesus paid for my sin is another lie. God never blames, never atones for someone else in my place. I am responsible for what I have done. I have to pay for what I have done. Period. That is God's justice. Therefore, everything you decide, you have to answer for. To the extent you are responsible, and if you have, for example, pushed a person, that person fell from the terrace and died, then you are responsible for everything that happened. That is to say, you are also responsible for all the consequences of your actions. Jurisprudence also states the same. The law in universities states the same. That is, each person is responsible for their direct actions and the direct consequences of their actions. What has had the decision and will to do it, then this is called destiny. Yes, God knows the destiny, but that does not mean that God decided for you. No. There are certain elements that you did not decide, but God will never blame you for that. In other words, God will never blame you for the actions of your parents. No. So, what is called destiny is already quite clear. There are certain things in my life that are already beyond my reach, out of my hands. That's why I'm not responsible. If you want to call this predestined, that's fine. It's out of your hands. What date were you born? You weren't born in the 17th century. You weren't born in the 11th century. Now you were born in the 20th century. Right? That's not your decision. If you say that is predestined, there is no problem. There are things that are predestined, but where you have free will and can make a decision, you are responsible. And you have to answer in the grave, on the day of judgment, here also on earth.